Hi, my name is Jade DeBarry. I am in Public Health 120, and the country that I chose for my presentation is Japan. To begin, I'm going to discuss the style of eating and culture around food in Japan. The Japanese take their cuisine and food choices extremely seriously. They take great pride in the quality and purity of their meals, and compared to a traditional Western diet, their cuisine is much less calorically dense and processed. They tend to avoid drinking while eating and traditionally will not eat until they are full, but rather until they are satisfied. They value simplicity, aesthetic, presentation, delicacy, and consume every meal with enjoyment. The traditional Japanese food palette is highly seafood based and also includes rice, soybeans, or miso, and vegetables all served in fairly small portions. The consumption of meat and dairy has traditionally been known to be extremely low compared to Western countries. Transitioning from the food culture in Japan, I'll now discuss the top causes of mortality. According to research done by the Central Intelligence Agency, Japan has the third highest life expectancy in the world, and their healthcare system ranks as one of the world's most efficient. However, its citizens unfortunately suffer from a wide range of non-communicable diseases. These include heart disease, depression, and most prominently cancer. As of 2016, the leading cause of death was cancer, and is still responsible for 1 in 3 deaths in the country. It has been steadily increasing since 1947, and these include stomach, colon, liver, and lung cancer. Studies have even shown that over 50% of these cancers are preventable, which is what we can discuss next. If you look closer into the Japanese diet, it's clear to see that the link between this diet and the specific types of cancers can be attributed to a variety of factors. According to the Japanese Cancer Society, 1 in 3 cancer deaths were attributed to stomach cancer. This could be because of a variety of factors, but many of them point to the high consumption of uncooked fish and meats, which contain bacteria that can lead to ulcers and cause damage in the stomach lining. In addition, the high consumption of salt, which is a staple in Japanese meals, attributes to the high risk of stomach cancer, as do the preservatives and nitrates used for curing and flavoring noodles and meat dishes. However, the increase in starchy noodles, high sodium, and animal protein consumption, and the decrease in fruit and vegetable intake was not something by chance, if you consider when cancer rates in Japan started to increase, which was in 1947 after World War II. You can confidently infer that Western cultures and globalization played a large role in the change of the Japanese diet and inherently increased the incidence of cancer in Japan. One of the central characteristics of globalization is the integration of the global marketplace, which undoubtedly has affected diet patterns. Specifically, research has shown that in Japan over the past few decades, the increase of fast food, sugar, and processed foods has increased tremendously. Globalization has affected the nature of Japan's food systems and has therefore altered the quality, cost, and desirability of a lot of different foods. More specifically, the cost of globalization means an increase in demand and an increase in production and industrialization. The increase in production has led to pollution levels in the water that have contaminated once fresh fish and led to an era of overfishing in Japan as well. Not only has globalization quite literally changed the food dynamic itself, but it has also affected economies and wage gaps within different countries, including Japan. With the wage gap, those who have a higher income will enjoy the benefits of a larger and healthier marketplace, whereas those subject to a low-income lifestyle must adjust towards poorer quality, cheap fast food, as opposed to the high-quality fresh food that Japan is so well known for. With this, however, Japan is still well ahead of the U.S. in terms of life expectancy. This is in part due to the vast difference in diet and how the Japanese diet is still far from being as destructive as the traditional American diet. However, from the perspective of a public health nutritionist, I would suggest a few recommendations to decrease the incidence of cancer through a means of a lifestyle modification. First and foremost, I would suggest a decrease in animal protein, as it has been shown over and over again to increase inflammation in the body and cause cancer. It makes the most sense to cut back on the intake of fish and other meats. I would also recommend to cut back on the intake of processed noodles, as they serve very little nutritional value. I would instead promote the intake of whole grains, which is still a staple in the Japanese culture but has decreased with the effects of globalization. Lastly, I would further promote the consumption of cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and bok choy, which have been linked to a decrease in various types of cancers in many of the reports that Dr. Greger has provided in his lectures and in his book, How Not to Die. All in all, Japan's overall health compared to many Western countries surpasses them by a landslide. It is because of the fact that globalization has decreased the quality of food and increased the consumption of food that is less nutritionally dense that the rate of diseases like cancers has increased over the past few decades. Ideally, with these minor lifestyle and diet changes, the incidence of cancer will decrease in the Japanese culture over time. And here are my references, and thank you for listening.